working on the MPDM hatch, or rather node hatch first, and then an MPDM hatch, and then for also a lot of leak checks and things. There's a couple of hours work actually before we can open the hatch. That's the thermal cover we're kind of removing, which was on the outside of the CBM.
So here you can see Krister removing the CPAs. These are the controllers for the bolts that bolted the MPLM to the space station after Kevin and Mike installed it. And there's Frank also helping out with that task.
Llegar a Marte, ¿qué dirías antes de pisar el planeta? Después de Neil Armstrong dio un pequeño paso para el hombre.
Jose doing a KO event in Spanish, so we're able to reach out to an entirely new audience. That's really nice, I think.
Formular unas palabras para la primera persona que pise al planeta Marte. Creo que dejaría ese honor para la persona que en la actualidad pisa.
About a minute hours of work, we're finally ready to open the hatch to a temporary new module on the space station, Leonardo. And a bit funny, the two Europeans up here out of the 13-person crew are working on this to get into the European-built Leonardo. Right now we're the last thing doing, putting up a cover so we won't get stuck in bolts and cables and things when we're late. We'll go through that hatch many times with a lot of transfer items coming from inside the MPDM. So here we are turning the handle very carefully, following the procedures. To be honest with you, we had a little bit of a problem there because it was harder than expected to get it the hatch open. But after a few minutes hiccups, we finally managed to get it open. In the MPDM, we are carrying up 6 racks, 3 for crew support on the space station. It's a crew quarter for one of the members here. There's a big treadmill. And there's also something called the atmosphere revitalization system to keep the air clean. And here, after, as I said, a little hiccup, we finally managed to open the hatch to the MPDM. We have to have masks and goggles on in case there will be bad air or something floating around. But it was very pristine inside the MPDM. Great groundwork from everyone at KC has prepared it. It looked very nice and clean. You can see it is full of bags and racks, which we during the next coming days, everything will be transferred over to the station, and then we'll fill up with other things which needs to go back to Earth with us. Here's an example of the first bags getting transferred one after another. This is a very efficient way to do it when we can line up a lot of people and hand it from one person to the next one. It's Jose here,
break Discovery. Why don't you pause your narrative now?
Passing it on to Mike Barrett on the station. And trying to see, this is in the Japanese module. Jetpack waving there, and behind them you can see other crew members working on something. First transfer done, happy crew members floating out of the MPDM hatch. And now we're looking forward to several days of transfer.
This is the NLP experiment that we had on, was activated on flight day 2. Now we're going to go ahead and terminate it. So a couple of my good pilot buddies looking on as we're doing some pilot science. Just turn that crank until the line meets, and then give it 4 shakes and put it back in the Ziploc bag. final thing we had to do is a EVA tag-up. Had the entire crew there. There's a lot of robotic support required for tomorrow's EVA, which will be done by Bob Thirsk and Kevin Ford. So they're getting all that briefing squared away. And then Pat is going to be the procedures IV, so he's going through the checklist and the overview to make sure everything's in good shape. Cam and Jose will be suiting up, and so it's an entire team effort here. Well, it was a great flight day 4 on orbit, Houston, and we just want to thank everybody for the great support from the ground, and we're looking forward to a great flight day 5 with EVA and a lot of good rack transfers. Thank you. Good night.